This is a disclaimer. This episode may contain graphic descriptions of crime and criminal activity. It may not be suitable for listeners under the age of 18 or for those who may find the descriptions as disturbing. Listeners' discretion is advised. Hello and welcome to another episode of Krime KE podcast. My good name is Ajuma and I am very grateful that you took the time to listen to me today. Now let's start with, this is the last month of this show, of this season and of this show. What am I saying? This is the last month of this season of this show. That means we have 2 episodes left until the end of the season. That is just a heads up. And another thing is, after this season, the episodes of the show will no longer be divided by seasons. I'll just be covering crime stories and that's it. There'll be no season this, season that. Yeah, and there's something else I wanted to say, but it has slipped my mind. If I remember by the end of this episode, I'll share. If not, we still have 3 episodes, so yeah. With that said and done, in this week's episode, we talk about the brutal murder of 30-year-old Rose Soila. This story happened in November last year, and I remember when I saw the story on the news, I struggled to get over how graphic and brutal her murder was. And without further ado, let us get into today's episode, and please stick around until the end of this episode to find out how you can support this podcast. In the morning of November 2nd, 2024, the people of Olteani village in Kiserian, Kajiado County woke up to a tragic scene of Rose Soila's murder. According to one of her neighbors, he woke up to a crowd gathered outside Rose's home. So what he did was he went to check her house, and on looking through the window, he saw her living room covered in blood. Her furniture had been moved in a way that indicated that there had been a fight or struggle in the room, and there was blood all over the furniture. Just a few meters away from her house, he saw a knife covered in blood, which would actually later be determined to be the possible murder weapon. At this time, he realized that the crowd was gathered where Rose's body had been dumped, in a small bush close to her house. Police were called to the scene and they discovered the horror that Rose endured on the night that she was murdered. According to the police report, she had a deep cut on her neck, her eyes had been gouged out, and the skin from her forehead had been peeled off. She also had defensive injuries on her hands, which indicated that she had tried to fight off her killers. Police say that the injuries on her body generally indicated that she had been tortured and that she died a very painful death. Here is an audio from some of the witnesses at the scene on that day.
Kuna cut ilikatwa shingo na very sharp object, na kulikuwa tena na other cuts on the body. Inaonyesha alikuwa na struggle na kushika kisu mpaka vidole zimekatwa.
Kichwa yenyewe haina hii nyama yote, hii ngozi yote ya uso. Ni kama imechinjwa yote. Imechinjwa hii ya uso na nywele pia ikachinjwa. So yote ilikuwa skull peke yake. Pia hakuwa na macho na ulimi. Yote ilikuwa skull.
From the audio, you can tell that she was clearly brutalized to her death, which left many of the people wondering what the killer's motive was. It is sad that up until the publishing of this episode, I was still unable to find any possible motive for her brutal murder. Now, the initial police investigation led to the arrest of 2 people, a father and his son, who were Rose Soila's neighbors. Now, throughout all the reports I found on this case, the 2 were described as persons of interest and not necessarily suspects in the case. They say that they were assisting with the investigation. In one report by the Daily Nation, it was reported that Rose had previously reported them to the police over threats that they had made to her because of a land dispute. According to the postmortem conducted on November 5th at the Ngong Sub-County Hospital, it was determined that Rose died from stab wounds to her neck. Now, most of the reports on this case, including the initial police report, say that Rose was sexually assaulted, but the postmortem report could not confirm that. The pathologists say that vaginal swabs had been taken for the further testing so that they can establish whether or not she had been sexually assaulted. According to the police, this is what they believe happened on the night that Rose was murdered. The last time that she was seen alive was the previous evening when she went to pick up her child from a neighbor's place. Her neighbor told the media that she had asked her to watch the child as she went to the shops. So police said she was home with her 2-year-old daughter when her attackers accessed her home that night. They had been living just the two of them since her husband was taken into custody for a different case. He was actually being held at the Kiserian police station when Rose was murdered. Now, according to the police, her murderer accessed her house by breaking one of the windows in the middle of the night before raping her, torturing her, and dumping her body outside. The last report on this case say that the investigations are still ongoing and the 2 guys who were arrested are helping the police. Rose was buried in her home village of Olteani in Kiserian on November 7, 2024, and her family has always called for justice in her case. In one media interview, her sister said that Rose did not deserve the horror that she went through that night, and I could not agree more. May her soul rest in peace, and please look out for updates in this case because I will definitely be following up on this. We have come to the end of this episode. This was a very short episode because there's still not so much that has been reported. And this is something that I've found out about the femicide cases that have been reported. It's like the media reports, they get the outrage, then they pull out from the stories. I don't know what's going on, but I will definitely follow up on some of these cases that have been on this season of the podcast so that we can see how the cases ended. Now, that is all I have for you on the case of the murder of Rose Soila. There are still many unknowns in this murder case, like what the motive was, who did it. And again, this case is very underreported, so I have not been able to find out what the progress is on the case. But you should look out for the updates on our social media pages where I will provide one as soon as they are available. On TikTok and Instagram, we are at Krime.ke. On Facebook, you can find me at Ajuma Millicent. You can support Krime KE podcast by sharing this episode with your friends so that we can get a larger community to listen to these cases. I have tagged the podcast contact information and social media pages on the show notes of this episode so that it is easier for you to reach out if you have any feedback on this episode or the podcast in general. We also have a WhatsApp number which I have put in the show notes of this episode. You can send in voice messages, suggest cases, and even just give feedback. And now, with all that said and done, don't forget to give the podcast a 5-star rating on Spotify and catch the next episode of Krime KE podcast on Thursday next week, wherever you are listening from right now. But until then, stay safe and remember, it is crime with a K.